everybody.
Hello.
Hi. So Lisa here, supportive tarot, and the beautiful Dawn Michelle. Oh,
Hello.
you're this way.
I know.
Which arrow?
I'm somewhere. Hi.
We've got a little bit of echo, just a bit. Here, supportive tarot, and the beautiful Dawn Michelle. Oh,
Hello.
you're this way.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I think it's probably YouTube. Yeah, there we go.
YouTube, yeah.
No, it wasn't you. I didn't hear you. I think you're okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it was
Peggy's machine that does it.
It was my fault this time. I did it.
Thank you, Alchemy's Arrow. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
So, we are super, super excited to be diving into the well today.
Oh, no sound.
No, you're good. I can hear you. I think you're okay.
Alchemy's Arrow said no sound.
Hun, can you put in your headphones and just check to see if we have sound real quick? We should be good. We're unmuted. We'll test it. Give us one moment.
What are we testing?
Sound. Just make sure you can hear us.
Oh. Nope. The sound is on now. We're good.
Okay.
The noise kid.
We're fixed. We're fixed apparently, hun. We're good. Peggy was testing it for us. Anyways, hello.
Hello.
Live introductions are also always crazy, but I just wanted to make sure that we have a second to know who everybody is. You guys know who I am because you're on my channel, but Dawn Michelle, tell us a little bit about your channel, just in case randomly somebody doesn't know who you are. They should.
I'm Dawn Michelle, and my channel is Boho Tarot, and I do a lot of tarot-related content. I think actually most of my content is tarot-related these days. I do have a second channel that is like crafty journaling stuff, and then this whole rune group.
Hey, do you want to throw a link to your second channel in the chat? Because maybe not everybody knows. I watch it obsessively. I don't know why, because I have not once ever tried to make one of Dawn Michelle's junk journals or anything, but she does so much crafting on her regular channel with deck modifications and all that good stuff. And then on her second channel, like you do tons of like journals and like pen inserts, and I just find it inspiring and relaxing to watch, even though I've never done a single thing.
Yeah.
I watch it anyway.
It's like that one is whatever is just on my desk and whatever I'm working on, and then I just turn the channel on or turn the camera on, record it. And so a lot of times it's actually tarot related, but I don't want to I could totally flood my main channel with just crafting stuff. So that's the reason I started the second one.
I adore everything that Dawn Michelle creates, and actually, because I don't think I've talked about this publicly yet. Are you okay if I just throw this in now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So Dawn Michelle actually did all the layout for my book, The Self-Worth Path, and I'm really, really excited for you guys to see it because she did an incredibly beautiful job. So watch for that announcement coming really, really soon because it's coming out really, really soon. But it was so fun to work with her behind the scenes on that project, and that's definitely part of what got us talking more regularly and sort of ultimately kind of breadcrumbed our way here. So as far as the rune study group idea and this whole thing that has now become a whole thing, how did that all exactly start?
Okay, so that started with, I think I posted it on my Facebook group originally, but so I got a rune set. I was, scrolling Facebook, just wasting time basically. And then I came across these little china plate runes, which I have here. And it was just a random, I think it was an ad maybe even, but they're little, they're tiny. So, but they're little china plates. And I was like, those are pretty. I need those.
Those are so gorgeous.
So then I was like, well, now I have them. I should probably learn how to use them. So then I just posted on my Facebook group. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to learn runes. So does anybody want to learn with me? And then, yeah.
There was so much interest right away, and I think I messaged you or you messaged me, and I just wanted to join in. Can I be part of this, please?
Yeah, I think it was just the right time because it wasn't on my plan, right? It wasn't in my study list or anything. It's just
no,
it was serendipity, I guess. I don't know.
It came up very organically, and I think what was exciting was that so many people came in and were talking about how they just happened to have just got their first set of runes, or they were just getting ready to study too, and there was just this big kind of influx of people who were really excited to participate. And also around the same time, it had to be a similar timing, Nina at Shuffle Tarot, she released her Rune Spirals deck. And you and I were both really excited about that. A bunch of people in the community were excited about that. And I think that was something else that was happening around that time. Is people like, oh yeah, I'm getting the Rune Spiral cards. And yeah, so I think that too, like kind of coalesced perfectly. And as soon as
did. Like the day after I got my runes in, Nina released her video, and I was like, I watched it, and then of course, immediately, click add to cart. And then when that came in, I was just like, oh, it's just perfect timing. It's just all come together.
I just realized I still have this banner on. Well, we're going to get started shortly. We've been started for like 5 minutes now. Yeah, Nina actually was the first channel who put out rune content that I got really excited about, because if you haven't seen Nina at Shuffle Tarot's channel, she did a whole series where she did short videos on each rune, and I believe she has them organized in a playlist. And if
she does,
you guys putting the link into Nina at Shuffle Tarot's rune playlist series. I'll just send her on an errand. It's fine.
Fine, I'll be back.
But it's great because they were really short, easy to digest videos, and that was sort of my first like dipping my toes into using runes, was right after she started putting out those videos. And I used to shout them out all the time because I thought they were so well done. Definitely check those out if you guys haven't yet. I think Peggy might be able to grab the link for us. But I also Shuffle Tarot's channel and her rune series.
We have a playlist, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she has it in a list.
Yeah, just click playlist on her channel. If not, I can find it later. We can always add it after if she struggles. Poor Peggy. I'm like, I watch way more tarot than she does. And then I send her on these like random things.
There we go.
Oh yeah, see,
Runes by Shuffle Tarot.
Perfect. Yeah.
I found it.
So Good Journeys Tarot says I did that series when I first got my runes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love Nina's channel. You guys are awesome. Yeah, so that's really, really super exciting. So if you guys don't know, essentially how this whole study group kind of is structured is we're going to do live streams like this every couple of weeks, right, Dawn?
I think it's every other Saturday.
Yeah, every other Saturday. So it'll be right here at 11 o'clock, same time, same place. And those replays will also be linked into the Facebook group if you're a part of it. The Rune Study Facebook group is the place to go for like the regular posts. People are already super active in that group. I think we have over 400, or is it more now?
It might be more now. It was like 400 like a day ago.
There's a lot of people in there. So there's a lot of really great sharing already. People are sharing resources. They're sharing their favorite rune sets. A lot of people are making their own runes, and it is really exciting. That's been one of my favorite parts so far. Is like all the creative things people are doing to have their own rune sets. And I think of all the like divination things you can make yourself, runes are probably the easiest because so many different things you can create. I just think that's awesome. So seeing people share all the runes they're buying, their rune cards, their rune sets they're making.
Yeah, that's been amazing. And like every time I see one that somebody's like made a really cool one, I like screen capture it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to make those later. So
yeah,
definitely like every time I see a handmade one, I'm kind of like, why did I buy some? I could have just made some. I mean, I love mine too.
I was just gonna say the ones you got are so
pretty. They're so pretty. They're like,
and I've never seen any like it.
Me either. They match my like as I say, they match my everything, right? My whole like aesthetic.
Your whole you-ness. I think that's as soon as you posted the first, I think you either shared them in a video or you posted a picture of them first. Do you remember?
I think I posted a picture first in Facebook, and I think I had it on one of my like monthly wrap-ups because I've actually had them for a couple months.
Yeah, and the first time I saw them, I'm like, of course, Dawn Michelle has runes made from like china plates that are like stunningly beautiful. Of course, that's what happened. My first rune set was like the like clay ones you could get for like in a little set for like $20. Right. I don't know where those ended up. They're not with me anymore. But
and the funny thing is those type of runes have been sitting in my Amazon cart for like ever. Just hanging out in there, just like things that I need to buy. And then I saw these, and I'm like, oh no, click. Those are the ones that are for me.
Yep. So I'm sure Dawn will make it.
But that's gonna happen.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing all the ideas people have been posting in the group, is there like a particular rune set, like an idea that you have about what you want to make? Because I know you're already percolating because I know your brain works.
I'm thinking like a sort of oceany themed one. Like the shell ones have been really cool. And that's really different from like the China plate thing. But then I was like, well, I could get one of those little burning tools and do a wood one too. So I might have to do,
Like a little of both. Keep me
yeah.
posted on the oceany idea because I love the shell one. I would love to get little tiny scallop shells maybe.
Mhm.
I'm a big ocean baby. Did you see my eyes are like this big when you're like an ocean themed one? I'm like, keep me posted. I want to know how that works out. Oh yeah, Uncle Badger says he made his own set out of stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love this. Ooh, Soap Story's gonna make a DIY video about the. Are you saying that Dawn Michelle will make a DIY video? People are predicting your behavior now.
It might happen.
Elizabeth Trumbull says we have 467 members in the supportive tarot, or not supportive tarot, in the Boho Rune study group on Facebook. So, oh yeah, I was talking about structure and then I got distracted because I am a squirrel. But yeah, so live streams every couple of weeks. And then in between then, we're going to have a post go up about every day or two with a new rune to sort of launch discussion and study, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have, so there'll be like, it's a rune one day. I think I have, it's like Monday and Tuesday will be rune days. And then Wednesday will be kind of like a breather in between where we can talk about those runes. And then I think we have Thursday, Friday, and then weekend to kind of talk about the runes for the week.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's great because what Facebook let us do, we had to sort of set it up once we got the Facebook group populated, but there's a thing called units, and what we're able to do is sort of put posts as they come up. We're able to put posts into different units. So if later you join the Facebook group and you want to catch up on study, you can move through the units in order and see the content that was kind of created as we went through each rune. And that to me has been really useful. I first encountered it in what it could be in a tarot conference that was online. And what was great is that if you get behind, you don't want to have to try to fish through all these posts, particularly in an active Facebook group, right? So you can kind of just click on units and then look at the runes that you want to look at or look at the content you've missed or whatever. So that'll be really cool. So it will hopefully be kind of timeless. So people can join 6 months from now and still kind of move through everything. So that's what we're hoping for anyway with that.
Yeah, and just to keep the ongoing discussion and everybody can keep adding to it along the way. So it'll be like at the end, my kind of original vision was like this kind of group compendium of runes where we take all of our collective knowledge and put it all together and then pick and take apart what we want to include. So
I think it's going to be really good. And like you've really framed the whole experience to be like a very group where all the students, we're all the teachers, we're not teaching anything because we're also learning.
Yeah, so, I have no idea what I'm doing.
And I've only been working with them for a short time. So I've been working with them for like week ahead spreads and things like that. But even then, I feel like what's really exciting about the group is we have this vast range of everybody's experiences. And I can see that we have that in chat today too. So it's like all the people participating are bringing, some people have been working with runes for a long time and are sharing knowledge. And then we have people who are also learning. And it's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I feel like I need to pop I don't think I've done it yet. I'm going to pop a link to the actual Boho Rune study group into the, the link thingy. What are those even called? A link. So I'll pop that into chat. So I guess what we're doing then is that our live, not I guess, I mean, I know this, but our live streams are going to be in AETs. Is that even how you pronounce it? Do you know?
I've heard it. The pronunciations, just so you guys all know, like I have struggled, and Lisa can attest to this over the last few weeks of, is it this one or this one? I keep finding 20 different spellings, pronunciations for each of the runes. So I kind of went with what was the most popular, but yeah. I think it's like et. Like et, I think, but I've heard it pronounced et, eight. So,
et is much easier to say. So if that's the winner, I'm down. I'm curious to know if anybody in chat has any opinions or if you guys have heard it pronounced a different way. That's definitely something I think that's going to be interesting as we dive into all of the runes, is that lots of runes have different names and different spellings and different pronunciations. So that's one of the things I actually find kind of confusing or overwhelming is the rune thing, and like having some runes that like, okay, well, this book calls it this one calls it that. I got rune cards, thought there was a spelling error on one of them, pitched a little mini fit, and then somebody's like, no, that's actually one of the valid spellings. I'm like, oh, okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, like I have 3 different books on, runes, and they each have something a little bit different. So it seems that the majority of the meanings stay fairly consistent. It's mostly spellings, pronunciation. So basically what I've been seeing from the research that I've done is whatever you can pronounce, go with that.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I also found that like when I had like when I first started diving into runes just a little bit, I had like rune cards, rune book, different resources, and so I just went with the ones that I felt like were the most repeated, like as far as spellings or whatever, and those are the ones that have kind of stuck. Like when I see a rune, I'm like, okay, that's the one called this, and that's the one that sticks. But then it throws me if I see it spelled a different way somewhere else, because I'm like, wait, is that this one? Okay.
Yeah, and some of them are kind of similar.
So Mary says, I think it's Et too. That's how I've heard it most often. There are 2 Norse and Northern tradition experts on YouTube, and I'll see if they have any pronunciation guides. Oh, thank you, Mary. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love organization. Oh, and Uncle Badger says, yeah, there's the German, Scandinavian, and Icelandic spellings of the ones that are shared amongst those sets. Oh, there's also the younger Futhark and Northumbrian Futhark on top of those 2. Please tell me you're in the Facebook group, Uncle Badger. Are you in the Facebook group? Please be in the Facebook group. We need people in there with this extra information because like I am such a like little baby beginner.
Me too. I'm like reading through books going, oh my goodness. Like in a little bit of a way, this is almost more intimidating than learning tarot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that way, if anybody else does, but I'm like looking at this going, I feel like these little 24 symbols are harder in some ways. And maybe that is to do with names and pronunciations, because tarot is, I guess, a little bit more of a familiar, I guess.
Yeah. The entropy I can't say that. The entropy apothecary. Jackson Crawford is an excellent resource for pronunciations. Is that a YouTube channel or a website or something? I would love to know. Maybe we could throw a link up if we know. I might pop it in here to Jackson Crawford.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. And Uncle Badger said he just joined, so
yay! Okay, good. And Savina Shell says, as a Danish person, I would recommend you to look at how the Icelandic people are pronouncing them. That would be useful. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to know. And sometimes, and I will be the first to admit, sometimes I get in the habit of saying something wrong, and it's so hard to break it. Like, ask anybody who watched my channel how often I say rifle instead of riffle, and I get so much flack for it. I'm like, I know it's riffle. I know that in my head, but I've been saying rifle for like 25 years, so like it's not flipping very quickly.
It took me a long time to break that one too. I had the same issue.
Yeah. Oh, you called it rifle too?
I did for a long time. Well, that's how it's spelled. Like it's spelled that way. So
I know.
I break my habit of that in making videos too. So I'm like, sometimes I have to think about it. But beauty of editing, you just edit that out.
I don't know if this is the right Jackson Crawford because he has a cowboy hat. Is our Rune dude a cowboy hat guy? Because that feels like it might not be right. I better check. So now that we know that, or we're pretty sure that et is pronounced et. So what are the ets, or what have you found so far?
So kind of what I've discovered so far is that overall it kind of creates a loose structure, I guess, for the runes, but some books don't even bring it up. Some books don't even really break them down that way. And so I thought that was interesting because, like in tarot, we have we definitely have the major and minor arcana. We definitely have the chords. But in the runes, it's a little bit different because you have these 3 structures that, depending on what you're reading or who you're looking into, can, kind of group them together this way and group them together that way. But not everybody does that. So I don't know how foundational it is to the actual learning of the runes, but it's a handy way to kind of break them down.
So does it break them into groups of 8 then? Okay, there's 24 runes, right? So for groups of 8.
So you have basically the first, second, and third. And so I could just go through them real quick if you want.
Yeah.
So the first is, and I'm probably going to mispronounce names and all kinds of things. So I'm just going to
please be patient with us.
So
we're learning.
Yeah. So the first is Frey, or sometimes it's Freya's et, and it's sacred to the fertility god and represents the forces of creation and all gods and beings. So if you look at the meanings of the first 8 runes, you can see that connection. It's definitely there. How deep different people dive into that, I think, depends on who you're studying with. So in the second one is sacred to the elemental force of hail, which represents consciousness, growth, development, and magic. And a lot of times I've found in that one, it also represents destruction, because in the Norse culture, or in the Norse area, winter is very, very harsh. Winter is often a time of destruction, and everything dies, and then we come back again, just like in any other season. But that is what, as far as I can tell from all the research that I've done, that's kind of the connection. It's kind of the destruction of things, but that's what leads to that growth.
Have you found just sorry to interrupt, but have you found like a seasonal association? Because just you saying that, I was like, so does that mean that Heimdall's et is kind of like wintry in general? Or
I haven't found that, but I think that you probably could, because if you think of the first, granted there's only 3, so it would be more like the kind of maiden mother crone, or
like growing, harvest maybe, and something like that.
And then going into the darker side, because then if you, or not the darker side, but into the underbelly kind of, because then if you go to the third, that is sacred to the Norse god of the sword and represents humanity and transformation. So you can kind of make that triad that we always see, right? Where we have the first, the second, and the third. We see it in the maiden mother crone. We see it in the different, the 3 faces of the goddess, that kind of thing. And so I think you probably could. And I'm curious, in the book, Taking Up the Runes, which I'll probably show here in a little bit, she definitely dives more into the kind of divinatory magical aspect of it, where then I have some books that dive more into the history. And so I'm kind of curious to see if she makes any correlation with that, because just in looking at it, I could definitely see there being the triad that we see everywhere in humanity and in our cultures and in our past. We see that triad coming up of that kind of, that birth, that growth, and that death.
And that kind of sounds like when you're describing the 3 different runes, when we think about the first one, sounds like it's more like, if I were to just off of what you just said, sort of think, if I think in terms of tarot, it might help me wrap my brain around the structure, right? So if I think of it that way, I kind of see, it sounds like the first et is more like your mundane, the things you really need to think about, like from a material standpoint, and like more mundane, kind of like day to day, so more like pentacles-y almost. And it sounds like the middle et is almost kind of swordsy, sort of ish, like a lot more challenge and things like that. And then the third one almost sounds like majors. And I know that's like a weird way to like associate it, but if the third one is about like sort of growth and evolution, it almost sounds like it's dealing with the really big sort of higher, or maybe like this may have nothing to do with Norse stuff, or maybe like the idea of sort of like ground level stuff. This may have like even a Kabbalistic kind of correlation, but like ground level stuff, or like day-to-day stuff. And then you go up to the next level and you're dealing with all your like having to grow through challenge, and then finally evolve, almost like you're getting closer to spirit as you move through the runes.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I kind of look at it, because of course my background is tarot and this is all new to me. I kind of look at it as the first, if you break the majors into 3 sets of 7, setting the Fool outside because it's
the septenaries. Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So they kind of align that way too, because the first et is kind of that awakening of consciousness. And then the second et is kind of like coming into the world and exploring, and that kind of covers your middle set of 7 in tarot. I mean, of course, it's not the same, but that's how my brain kind of corresponds.
That makes sense, because that's where the tower and death and stuff would be. That makes
sense. All the stuff takes up, right? And then you go to the line of the tarot, the last 7, and then you get into that transformation of humanity, and you've got the star, and you've got the the world and judgment, and taking that final look. So I have no idea if there is actually any correlation, but that's how my brain is putting it together.
That makes so much sense to me, and I got more and more excited the more you start. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense, because yeah, the septenaries, that totally is how that works. Septenaries being the sets of 7 within the major arcana, just to make sure I don't like just throw words out there randomly. But yeah, if you break it into the septenaries, then it makes sense, because you've got magician all the way up through the chariot, and then your strength through, oh gosh, math.
Yeah, that's what I was doing in my head, like, oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, strength through no, that's not right. 8. Temperance, the devil, is that right? Does the tower fall into the 3rd septenary?
I think it does.
Okay, so yeah, but
Yeah.
I want to explore, lower world, middle world, and upper world.
I was gonna say, Alchemy Zero was just saying it does. Yeah, it corresponds to the 9 worlds, because that is the base of the mythology, which and then I've been kind of studying on that too. But for me, my brain has to go back to what I know to make the connection. But yeah, it's totally based on the 9 worlds, which is really interesting if you read into that history too.
See, this is going to make me want to read Norse mythology. And like when you first showed, there's a book you've got that talks about Norse mythology.
It's the one. Now it is like, it's just mythology. It's not like meant to be, it's fiction basically, but it really helps to just take those stories and make them more digestible. And it's really good. It's a really good read.
I'm excited about that. As soon as you showed that book, I'm like, I'm just gonna throw that in my cart and buy it. And then I was like, wait, let's reel it in, because I don't want to I have a nasty habit. I don't know if anybody else has this happen of like overwhelming myself with information. So I'll get really excited about something, and then I'll grab everything related to that thing and suddenly experience this like brain exploding moment where like it's just too much.
Yeah.
But I really think, and maybe people who've worked with runes for a while that are in the chat now can give us some thoughts on this, but I feel like if you're trying to learn the runes, if you do have a basic, at least familiarity with Norse mythology, that helps. Thoughts? Question? Because if that's going to be a big help, then it is worth it to me to get a book like Neil Gaiman. Is that how you say his name? Neil Gaiman? I think
it's Gaiman, but I don't know. I'm terrible at names.
But that book sounds like it could possibly help to just get more comfortable. Yeah, Julie Daniel says Dustin is Modern Metaphysicae was talking about a Norse mythology book too. Yeah, he's reading stuff right now.
It was the same book. He's been reading.
It the same one? Yeah. Okay, now 2 people I talk to on the regular have read that one and recommended it, so I may have to grab that. Colleen McLean asks, I grabbed the wrong one. How is the show Vikings historically and mythologically accurate? Does anybody know? Who knows? I don't actually know, and I haven't watched Vikings.
I've watched the show, but I don't know enough about the mythology or the history of that culture, that era, that to really say whether it was accurate or not.
Fair enough.
I believe I heard that they did try to do some research, but and definitely, and the funny thing, reading the I don't know where I said it, but reading the Norse mythology book, I was reading it before bed, and then the show Vikings was playing in my head.
You were having Viking dreams.
I was having Viking dreams, and my husband's like, "Maybe stop reading that before bed."
Maybe he's concerned you're having Viking dreams. I mean, Vikings. Hi. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I assume like anything that's fictionalized, I assume they really probably just made it fit for whatever they needed to fit. They definitely, made mention to some of the same gods and goddesses, but I don't know how accurate it really was.
Fair enough. And Dana, the Shadow Moon Witch, says, Lisa, it absolutely does help to have an understanding of Norse mythology when stepping into this because they are intertwined. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's going to be maybe an area I'm a little bit behind because I really don't know a lot. I mean, this is gonna be embarrassing to admit, but literally the only associations I have with Norse mythology, other than maybe what I learned as a teeny tiny baby witch when I was like 19 and cannot remember, is like what I've learned from the Avengers movies, like not Thoth.
Thor.
That's what I'm looking for. Thor.
Thor. Yeah.
Oh my God. Just proof, you guys, not teaching, learning, not teaching.
Totally.
But that's like literally all I have is, okay, there's something about this rainbow bridge. That sounds exciting.
Yes.
And there's some other things in there about Thor and like the Allfather and Odin. And I've had little bits that I've picked up through tarot, like through the, I learned a little bit about Odin and Hugin and Mugen and stuff like that when working with the Marielle tarot. There's little bits in there floating around, but none of them are connected at all.
Yeah.
And Butterfly Love Child says, I'd keep away from anything written by Stephen Flowers or Edred Thorson. He has no. Oh, that's good to know.
No, I don't think I have anything by either one of them.
I haven't even seen that author. And somebody else also suggested.
To make sure.
There's another book recommendation I thought I saw. Maybe I missed it. The chat is moving very fast.
It is, yeah.
Alchemy's Arrow says, I started with runes without any awareness of Norse mythology and read with them for over a decade before the Norse magic pushed me in. Ooh, good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Somebody said something about the Neil Gaiman book and just said it's not necessarily scholarly accurate, but gives a good like overview, which I think is what you said too, right? Like it's just good to kind of get wrapped up in the stories.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it was a good like kind of primer to kind of like get me in the mood. And I used that as like a springboard to give me names so that I could actually go research real information.
Yeah.
The names are accurate as far as I know. The stories are, you know, they're fictionalized. They're told in yeah, and even says that in the book. I can't remember if it's at the beginning or the end, but it's like this is my version of these stories. But it just makes them digestible. I can't say that I probably would have read a book, you know, had it not been like just to sit down and read a Norse mythology book. I don't know that I would have been inclined to do that had it not been my primer, if that makes sense.
Like full disclosure, I have never enjoyed reading history books. I like to have other people, but by have other people, I mean ask Peggy because she loves reading that kind of stuff. I'm like, you go read or learn about the thing, and then we'll have story time, and you can just relate it back to me. Because for some reason, if I start to read something that's too, I don't want to say accurate, that's not the right word, but too, if it's not exciting enough, I find that I have to reread same paragraphs like over and over again because I just can't focus
like
the same way. Yeah, so a book like that would be a great, like, I think, gateway to wanting to learn more, because then you could kind of go, okay, this story really grabbed my attention. Let me go see what the real deal was.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Like there's a whole interesting in the beginning, you know, it talks about Odin going down to get the taking up the runes. And it was just it was such a small portion of this book overall. It was just one little like couple pages. But that started my whole into, well, okay, let me find out more about that story too. Like the real story. So that was interesting.
And Alchemy's Arrow says, and Dawn, you've mentioned this too. If you want the real deal, read the Poetic Edda, but be ready for scholarship.
Yes.
Not ready yet, but I will definitely be looking at that.
That's on my list, but I'm like you. I'm trying not to overwhelm myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would definitely like to read it, but I hear it takes some time. It takes some study from what I've gathered. So
a lot of this sort of, I guess, original source material can be tougher, I think, to dive into. I think it's all worth looking, even if you don't think you can fully absorb it. I think it's still good to refer to that material if you're studying something, because I think there's not a slant. There's kernels, especially some of the particular, like this kind of stuff where it's written in a poem form or in a song form, or some of those original oral traditions, because as I understand it, and please somebody correct me, because again, just little tidbits floating around, but the runes were, I believe, a verbal alphabet first, wasn't it? Something about verbal before it was written.
I don't know which came first. There is definitely an oral tradition that goes along with them from what I've gathered.
Yeah. So sometimes, like, at least from what I know of, like, European, like, mythologies, a lot of times the stories were told and retold and retold, or songs were shared around, you know, by bards and things like that. And so it was like kind of a telephone game of like oral to oral to oral. And there's like these like symbolic like kernels in a lot of these original texts. So I feel like almost you can access something differently, perhaps even subconsciously, by exposing yourself to that stuff. So I think that's cool too, for sure.
Again, I think seeing there's also, like everybody mentioned before, there's the kind of, I don't want to say just three because that's not true, but there's the three kind of main, versions of the runes kind of. And I think it's probably interesting to explore the different, once you kind of get, I think, the hang of them overall, because I think you could totally overwhelm yourself too.
Yeah.
Interesting to explore, because a lot of it just changes based on how cultures move across the continents and across the world, and how stories travel. And every time a story travels, it changes slightly, but the core meaning is really, to me, that's really interesting. It's always still there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it might actually be, I'm just like reading some of these comments. There's a lot of people mentioning like books and authors that they've read and recommend. If you're in the Facebook group, I think what might be nice is if we start like a thread, we could even put it in the first unit with recommended books specifically. I think that'd be a really good thing to do. So I'm going to make a note to myself. Maybe one of us can post that after the chat because I'm seeing a lot of really exciting things come through and I don't want us to lose them. So I'm going to put book recommendation post. I'm going to make a note or I will forget. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing that in the chat. And I'm trying to pop up those comments when I see them so that if people watch this back later, they can find those comments easier. And feel free to tag @supportive tarot or type it in all caps if you're sharing a specific book recommendation or resource that you want us to highlight, because it'll just make it easier for me to see it in the chat. And oh, here we go. Alchemy's Arrow. The Norse tradition was all oral, like Celtic. So much has been lost that we have to spiritually connect to get access. This is what the revival movements are about. Agree, totally.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Could we do a good drive like you did for eclectic witchcraft videos? What do you mean? What's a good drive? I'm not following. Feel free to expand on that. Oh yeah, Elizabeth Trumbull says, yeah, awesome idea about the book. Yeah, the book thing. Yeah, I think that's going to be good. Ooh, Raven Bird says, the poem to me reads like a creation story. Oh, see, I'm really intrigued. I'm really intrigued.
Is that the
Edda?
The rune poems? Like, remember I was telling you in the book, there's all these rune poems from different, I think there's a Germanic one, there's an Icelandic one.
There was another one.
Yeah.
The Younger Futhark one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you know anything about that, or does anybody in chat know anything about that? About the idea of a, what was I going to say? Oh my gosh, I totally just lost my thought. I got distracted by chat. No, okay, so maybe my question is, there's a poetic Edda, and then there's also these rune poems. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. The difference between Elder Futhark and Younger Futhark, does one have more runes in it? Are they different runes?
Yeah, if I could find it real quickly, I don't know if I can. There is a difference, and of course, you know, I'm sure I highlighted it in one of my. Oh, here we go. Look, I turned to it. Let me see. Nope, that's the rune poems.
But those are different. The poetic Edda is different than the rune poems.
I think there is more runes in the Elder than the Younger, but again, I'm gonna keep saying I'm learning. So you know, see here, I'm
Peggy's being the teacher. Peggy's being the teacher's pet. She says the Younger Futhark, also called Scandinavian runes, is a runic alphabet and a reduced form of the Elder Futhark with only 16 characters in use from about the 9th century, after a transitional period during the 7th and 8th centuries. Yeah. So it's less runes? For some reason, I thought it had more.
I think it's less, and I think it came after, and I think, yeah, like Peggy said, I think it came from a different period.
That's super interesting.
Let's see. Yeah, Alchemy Zero says that Elder Futhark were the original Odin received.
Okay, gotcha. Elder Futhark were the original Odin received. Younger are expansions added later by Northumbrians. So were they meant to be added to the Elder Futhark so that you now have a longer expanded set? So like if you have 24 and you're using the Younger Futhark, the Younger Futhark, and those are 16, then you'd have 30. I can't math. You'd have more.
You'd have a lot more.
What is that, 40? 24 and 16 would be 40, right?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if the Younger are used very often, but in all my studies, like people will mention it, but that's not where their focus is.
Yeah, agree. So Uncle Badger says Younger Futhark is younger than the Elder. It's the same age roughly as the Anglo-Saxon Futhark and the Icelandic Futhark. The Northumbrian Futhark is the youngest and the longest. I'm so glad you're here, Uncle Badger.
I feel like Uncle Badger should be like up here with us. Right?
Join us. Oh, interesting. And Common Hawthorne says Younger Futhark and Northumbrian Futhark are responses to changes in pronunciation as languages changed, which is why we have so many different, both pronunciation, I guess, and spellings of the different runes.
Yeah.
Whew. I wonder if there is actually, yeah, so Sabina says, yes, it was an expansion. Okay, so it expanded the language. That actually makes sense because as language develops, we always add, right? We don't often like reduce. That makes a lot of sense. There's also the Futhorc, which are Anglo-Saxon runes. And so this is why, so we are going to be focusing, this is probably a good point to make, we're going to be focusing on the Elder Futhark runes for this study group, because otherwise it's going to take a lot longer. But there's a lot to dive into.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that we can't expand later on because it will be an ongoing thing.
Exactly. Uncle Badger says 24 in the Elder, 27 in the Anglo-Saxon, 16 in the Younger, and 33 in the Northumbrian. So then my question would be, just out of curiosity, is there overlap between them, or is each one essentially an expansion, which I can't help thinking in like video game terms now, but
or do they like put them all together?
Yeah, like does it just get bigger and bigger, or do they have overlap? Curious. Oh, Peggy linked a Wikipedia article too.
It's got tons of links in it, so that you can kind of explore down to whatever type.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome.
I mean,
and yeah, Alchemy Zero has been sharing a ton of really good information. Thank you both. What did Sabina say? Oh, time of use is the only historical difference between Elder and Younger, says Sabina Shell. Time of use. Oh, okay. So essentially, it's which alphabet was in use at the time. Is that kind of what you mean by time of use? I'm assuming.
That would make sense.
Ooh, Glam Up 007 says Elder are from the Heaven Realm. So almost like well, I guess that makes sense. If the idea is that Odin received these original 24, then these would be, I guess, the most connected to spirit in that way. That makes sense. Very interesting. Yeah, it's more like dialect with, oh, okay, so Sabina says it's more like a dialect within the language. And Cora68 says there's a lot of overlap, definitely not an expansion. So there's a bit of both. And Uncle Badger, they were expanded over about 1,000 years as they basically evolved. And Alchemy's Arrow, yes, there's overlap. Elder is part of all the systems. Okay, that's good to know. So Elder is in each system, but some have also got others. Got it. Okay, that actually helps a lot. Alchemy's Arrow is like Wikipedia, not reliable. Sometimes it's not, but it's a great jumping off point, at least, to kind of get a start trying to figure out what you want to study more. Ooh, Haley says we need to find a runes timeline. Yeah, if anybody has a good resource or link to something like that, that would be amazingly helpful. Completely agree. So why don't I've got a couple things I wanted to show that I'm going to be working with. Do you have a couple things you want to show that you're going to be working with? So we can kind of do a little bit of a show and tell, rune sets, books, etc. that we currently have, and maybe you guys in the comments can continue to share things that you are currently working with, and then we'll be able to maybe go into the Facebook group later and start loading in some of those resources in one thread so we can all get to them. That would be amazing. So, okay, first of all, have you shown your beautiful China runes yet?
Well, I just a little bit. I mean, they're so tiny, they're hard to see here. I have shown them on like my channel, but they are, let me see if I can get like too much light. They are China plates on the back that she broke down and then engraved and then painted. So they're all sanded down. Sorry, my camera's freaking out. They're all sanded down on the side because, you know, it's China. And they're all sanded down on the side and painted gold. And they make this lovely clicky noise that I like.
I love the sound. I love the sound. I was actually going to ask you that because I was like, okay, broken China, are they sharp? But it makes sense they do.
And
I love that sound. I love that. So I'm going to show my favorite set because they're pretty. And these, I love these. So this is the bag I keep them in, but they are like, these smell so good. I don't know what, I literally can't stop smelling them. I don't know, like they are made from a local pine, but they're really big. Like a lot of times runes are, what do I have that I could hold up? This is not going to help. I don't have anything for scale. Well, anyway, they're quite big. Like I'd say they're, if you're in Canada, I'd say they're about a toonie size, maybe a little bit bigger. But they're just, I just love these. I literally huff this bag. That probably makes me sound like a total creeper, but like, I'm like, I think they're oiled or something, but they smell so good. Oh, Deck Harlot is asking you, Dawn, how big your China runes are.
They're a little less than an inch, probably. I mean, they're not super big. Yeah, what am I gonna show?
You know what's neat about those though, and these wooden ones, is that if you're like me, or I know Dawn does this too, but if you like to take photos of spreads. One thing I learned, like my other set of runes is a onyx set, and so they're tumbled stones with the runes in them. So they look like, I can't even find the face. So that's Issa. But yeah, these are great, and they're really tactilely enjoyable to use. But I found that it was really difficult for me to photograph them because I couldn't get them tipped up so that the proper face was on top. So a flatter rune, if you think you're going to be taking photos of your rune spreads or castings, or you want to be able to do that, it might be easier to also have some kind of flatter set, for lack of a better way to express that.
Yeah. I want to say they're about the size. I was just looking to see if I have a quarter here. Which who has coins anymore? I don't know.
Nobody.
They're about the size of a nickel. If you're in the U.S. So
that's a nice little size. Like I feel like they'd be, yeah.
It's a nice little size. If I could hold it up, I guess next to maybe like anybody who has like Nina's little deck. That if I could get the right way, so you can see like they're tiny. They're like the size of a nickel or so. Not quite as big as a quarter.
Those are so cute though.
And you can, I don't know if it makes any difference, like because I haven't done casting yet because I'm still studying, but you can actually put them all in your hand. But I think you're supposed to like, we'll get into casting, but
yeah, I can't even with that. I've never done casting of runes at all. I think these do smell like pine, and I think that's probably what it is. It smells like fresh cut pine. What blows me away though is I don't understand how they still smell so strongly of pine. But I mean, literally, it's the best smell. I don't, and maybe because I'm like like in the Pacific Northwest, I grew up in Washington State. Pine is like the thing here, but if you can, it's always worth looking into it, especially if you can afford it, to see if anybody in your area makes rune sets. If you're looking for wooden runes, if anybody in your area makes rune sets out of local wood, that can be a really great way to also connect with your local land, your local like geography, right? So that can be something worth checking into too. And people have been making, just to kind of shout out some of the creatives in the Boho Tarot Boho Rune group, is that there's been people making rune sets out of those little glass beads that have a flat side and then they're curved, and just like
them at the dollar store. They go in like plants, or I assume like fish or whatever. They're like those little decorative stones. People have made whole sets out of those, which look beautiful.
And then we were talking earlier about, or I think you mentioned it, somebody also made a set out of broken pieces of shell that they collected from their local beach, and they just did a paint marker. I've seen people do wood burn sets. There's been so many
like cards. People have made their own cards, like just little circles, you know.
Yeah.
They look great.
And that's a good point to remind you guys all of, is that you don't need to purchase anything to participate with us as we learn. Like there's so many resources. Dawn, you put up in the Facebook group some stickers, I think, that people can, or
so for my journal, because you know it's me, I designed a whole digital like kind of collage with some little tags and pronunciation tags, and then actual little sticker things of runes, and then I put those up in the Facebook group so everybody can, you know, download those and just, you know, free to use in your own journals or whatever. Then I also have the other guide that we'll be releasing along the way too.
Yeah, so that's nice, because like you could always just print off that sheet of like rune labels or whatever, and just like cut those out and like glue them onto a piece of cardboard or whatever. Like,
So it's kind of like a rune set built in. If you don't have runes, you can print those off, and you could totally just use those. Just print them on some cardstock, or you know, paste them onto some cardstock.
Gotcha. And a bunch of people just chimed in about my runes, and thank you, because I was really wondering why they still smelled so strong. So I think, was it who said it about the sap? Somebody said, I think I lost it, but somebody said it's something about the sap. Oh yeah, here it is. Elizabeth Trumbull. It's the sticky sap in the wood that's what holds on to the scent. Because these literally smell like fresh cut pine. And I was convinced. I was like, they have to have put something on them, like oiled them or something, with some kind of extra pine. Yeah, see here, Ravenbird says it too. Pine is like that. Hardwood stores tend to be an array of different tree scents, even though the wood been sitting there who knows how long. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. It smells so good though. It's such a tactile thing to have something like this that also smells so good.
Yeah, that's on my list to get, is something that's sourced here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think that'd be that's always. I'm just a big fan, And I had stone runes for a long time. I've also seen sets kicking around, and maybe some of you know, but I've seen sets kicking around that are gemstone sets, but they have different gemstones. Dustin has a set like that. The only thing is I'm not sure if, and maybe somebody who has a set like that knows, but I'm not sure if the gemstone properties are matched to the rune or if it's just kind of helter-skelter, whatever, because I think it might bug me if there's not some sort of conscious matching happening there. Like, I feel like, okay, if it's like a moss agate, is it going to be with a rune that has to do with prosperity, or you know what I mean? Like, I would want it to have some kind of correlation. And my concern is that I would get them and there'd be no correlation, and then it would annoy me. So if anybody has a set and knows, I'd be super curious, because that could give a whole other layer of meanings to match up, or to help you remember the meaning of the rune if you know the stone, or vice versa. And if nobody's done that yet, somebody do it, because I'd probably buy it.
Yeah.
That
makes them too.
That's true. That's true. I don't know how to engrave rock. How do people engrave rock? With Dremel tools or something?
Probably, but you could probably just get like a paint marker.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could probably just use a paint marker, just like regular rocks. Look at that.
Yeah.
So what about, so we've talked about Nina at Shuffle Tarot's Rune Spiral deck. So we both have that. I'm excited about this, especially for learning, because each card has the has an image on it that corresponds to the meaning of the rune.
Right.
Yeah. I think if you're learning, I think that's a really cool thing to be able to lean into. And she's added other things here. It looks like there's some planetary associations. I think it's also marked which et it's a part of. Yeah, it is. There's a number 1 for, yeah, she's got the number on the bottom right corner to reference the et.
Yeah.
But these are really, really pretty. And I think she's also got the color of the card corresponds to the, is it the element associated with the rune, to the best of her, like, to the best of her knowledge or her ability?
Yes, I believe it is.
But these are really nice, and these feel like these are a linen cardstock.
Yeah, they're really nice. And they're great size.
I am totally digging how in Perthrow she has like it looks like the 3 fates.
The 3 Norns.
The three Norns. Thank you. Yeah, I always forget the name of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm still waiting on the Rune Spirals book. I hope it eventually someday shows up.
It's really shiny, but yeah. She has this great little book here, and she has all this information in it. She does have extra cards in here, like there's moon cards, and I forget, she added a couple other things in here that she had discovered on her journey, a couple of extra runes. The Jonar, I see, I shouldn't pronounce things, but there's a few extra cards in here for extra runes. I haven't gotten to that yet because I've been trying to do it, you know, to stay in line with what we're doing with the group. So even though I'm trying to put all this together, not getting so far ahead.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, right? Like, because, and I will put a link up to these cards in the chat here in just a second. Yeah, here's one of the like extras, right? Yeah, I find those kind of overwhelming to try to think about. There is also, though, in case you're curious, there is she's also included moon phase cards in this set. So if you want and with keywords, so that's really cool that that's also in there. So I love mine. I'm really excited to use these. There is a set, I don't have it anymore. I think I rehomed it already. No, I still have them. Oh, hun, babe, can you grab me the Rune Learning cards from back there? I love having a helper. She doesn't necessarily love being my helper. But while you do,
God, I had to peel my ass off the couch.
Oh boy,
I need one of those too. I'm a helper.
You need
somebody who whines about helping.
It's the brown box. Right. That one. No, right.
Oh, there's one that says runes right on
that
it.
one.
Yeah,
this is another really great one for learning. It's specifically, I'm going to make myself big for a second here. I'm going to show you guys this. So this is by Living Magic Publishing. It's available, I believe, on Amazon or directly from the creators. But Jadzia DeForest and Jay DeForest are the creators of the Northwest Tarot Symposium, which is where I got these. And this is actually what I worked with for a long time before even working with runes. But they're basically like rune flashcards. So you have all the runes, but on the back of each one, you have the pronunciation, the theme, keywords, magical working, key phrases. In fact, I have these in my to rehome pile, but I'm probably going to break them back out for the study group. And there's also reversed meanings. So these are really great. And then there's a second set of cards. So you get 2 full sets of cards in here. The second set is blank on the back. So you could actually use them, like shuffle them and draw cards and just use them as runes.
Nice.
And I believe this set is, I think it's like under $30 US or something along those lines. Like it was pretty affordable as I remember. So these ones are really, really cool. And yeah, love, 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 love. So if you're just looking for something to just study, these are less exciting because they're not like aesthetically like particularly beautiful, but they're great for like literally having like a flashcard system to learn basically. So I've used those a bunch. I'm going to link to Nina's shop too because I forgot to do that. Here's Nina's shop. This is where you can get the Rune Spirals cards, and there's also a separate tin you can buy to put the cards in. I put mine in bags, but yeah, you can get that. And then I believe there's also a Lulu.
The book is on Lulu, yeah.
Yeah, so Lulu Rune Spiral cards. Okay. And then what about your favorite book or books that you're studying with or that you're hoping to study with? Dawn, what do you have for that?
So the book that I've been primarily using as my main source is this one, Nordic Runes. And it's interesting because it actually does go into more of the history. And this and Nina's book really have been the information that I've been gathering for the group. This has been the primary that they've become from, along with just some basic research that I've been doing online. This one's really interesting because it has a lot of like the poems and the history and the mythology, which I find really interesting. But you know, it also has just, you can just jump to the section on, you know, here's the divinatory meaning as well. And then the other book that I have that I've only really read the introduction to is Taking Up the Runes. And this is the one that I was talking about. That's a complete guide to using runes in spells, rituals, divination, and magic. And this thing is actually set up like a study course. It's actually broken down like a course. And it definitely focuses in on more of the divinatory magic mythology of the runes as well. And it's like, you can see it's quite substantial. This one I'm kind of hoping to do along with the group so that I can add, you know, little bits and pieces that I find along the way. So I haven't read beyond the introduction of this one.
Yeah.
And of course, those are just, you know, they're available on Amazon or whatever. They're not super expensive or anything. But I have the printout too, that because one of the big things was that I didn't want people to have to buy things. So I actually made, which I'll pop a link up to, and I just printed a black and white, but it's actually in full color, and it's a whole guide on the introduction and the first runes that we'll be studying wherever they went here, because now I'm out of order. So, but I'll have this up too, so you don't, between this and the sharing of information, you don't have to buy anything.
Yes.
This was where I was hopefully going with all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So the only book that I have right now, just so y'all know, I haven't acquired a whole bunch, is this book, The Runes by Lisa Peschel. Now, a lot of people have this book. This book's been around forever. I picked this up at a used bookstore for $4 whole. And this has been actually really great. It's super accessible. It's really easy to read. It's easy to toss in a bag. And actually, I have found it to be super useful. It also has that really delightful, like, used bookstore smell.
I love that smell.
I smell everything. I'm the worst. So let's chat about it. Oh, yeah. And so you said you were going to pop a link up for the
yes,
download.
It will be, it's just, this one is not in the group. So if you are not on Facebook, you can still access it through my website.
Yay.
That way you don't necessarily have to be in the Facebook, although that's where all the discussion will be happening. But that will act as a basic guide.
Yeah, there's another book recommendation here by Alchemy's Arrow that I'm going to pop up. And also, yeah, I think that was the one. If I've missed any other book recommends you guys want me to flash up, just either repost it or let me know. I'll scroll up and see if I can find it. Oh, Alchemy's Arrow says, I absolutely love that book, the Lisa Peschel one, for practical interpretations and uses. Yeah, it's been really good so far. I haven't gone into it really deep, but whenever I was like working with the runes as like a primary divination tool, I use this as the guidebook, basically. So I think this is super handy in that way. Oh, here we go. Ashara Dane Dragonblood says, I can also highly recommend the YouTube channel of Aerith. Aerith Harger. He has such an amazing knowledge. He has rune videos, mythology videos, videos on Norse magic, shamanism. You can learn a lot. Okay, that's great.
Okay. Yeah.
Katrina says Northern Mysteries and Magic. Is that a book recommendation?
I think that's a book. I think that might be in my list.
Okay. And then Optimal Wellness Yoga and more said, I picked up The Power of the Runes by Freya Aswin that Nina had recommended. Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. And yeah, if you are in the Facebook group, this the handout that Dawn just showed us is actually linked in the first unit in like preparatory information. So you can take a look at that. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be studying the first 8 runes in phrase et, right? So I have my beautiful Cosmic Whispers rune cards. Do we want to go through these 8 runes real quick and just kind of give everybody a bit of an overview?
That probably wouldn't be a bad idea, just for those who are maybe, just participating via YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, so first up we have Fehu. And my little card says the keyword is wealth. What do you have?
I have abundance, but it's the I think it means cattle, which would relate to how much wealth you have, right? How much cattle you have. Yeah.
Yeah. So cattle would be kind of like your resource,
your
obviously.
Resources, yeah.
I'm like very distracted by this.
On hers, right? I think she has cattle on her cards.
Well, yeah, I should actually. You know what? I can actually hold up both. I can multitask. We can do it. Okay, so fancy gold, and then beautiful little is it a cow? Is it supposed to be a cow?
I think it's supposed to be a cow because the next one is ox.
Yeah, so this one is cow, which makes sense. Oh, yeah, so cattle.
Yeah, cow. I love her little illustrations.
They're so freaking cute. Look at that dude. He's so cute. Okay, so the next rune in the et is urus. And the keyword on this one is, you said this is the wild ox. So, and then in Nina's, it looks like that.
Yeah. And the common keyword that I kind of found with that one was really challenge.
Challenge. Well, almost like bullheadedness, or maybe the ox is supposed to represent busting through the challenge, maybe? I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Interesting.
Also associated with strength and courage. So that makes sense. That kind of strong like a bull type of thing.
Ooh, Joanne says on the cow point, think cash cow for abundance. Ooh, that's going to be easy to remember.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and Ellie Vitulu on Fehu says earned wealth rather than unexpected windfalls. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so, sorry, the name of the decks. This is the Cosmic Whispers rune deck, and these are like very thick. They're like not cards. They're like wood. They're like wood plates, basically. And then these cards are the Rune Spiral cards by Nina, which we linked earlier in the chat. Okay, so Ellie says on Urus, proving oneself. And soap story. Oh, the sound of China. Okay, so third rune in the et is Thurasaz, which the keyword on this card is the thorn.
Yeah, and I think that was from the information that I gathered that it originally meant or related to Thor, the giant killer. So
was that about this being Thor's hammer?
It kind of looks like it. I can't remember if that was, what I have is that it originally associated with giant, which related back to Thor. And then it was Christianized to thorn.
Oh, interesting.
So it has, depending on where you look, because see, like Nina has the Thor, so it would be giant. But the keyword that I came up with for that was kind of related, depending on whether you look at it for thorn or Thor or giant, is kind of that of, you can either look at it as protection or misfortune. If you're on the wrong side of Thor's hammer, it's misfortunate. If you're on the right side of Thor's hammer,
then it's kind of righteous.
Protection.
Right? Oh, so Alchemy's Arrow, Nina's book is on Lulu, so that's one link. And if you scroll up further, you'll see the Make Playing Cards link for the actual deck. So there's 2 different links. You have to buy them at 2 separate places because she published both through sort of independent self-publishing platforms. One for the cards, one for the book. Oh, Ellie Vitulo says, protect yourself, a warning against a wrong choice. And Ginger Face says, thorn is gateway in my meanings. Oh, that's interesting.
I also heard that related to, like, if you think of it as a thorny situation.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always thought of this one more in terms of like power, and I wonder if I got that from more of the giant reference.
Which could be, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Madison's magical. So that brings us to is it Ansus or Ansus? Ansus?
Ansus? I don't have my pronunciation key here.
So handy. So this one is what, okay, I gotta tell you guys, because I don't know if anybody else is gonna have this problem, because I've done this in a video before. Fehu and Ansus look really similar. And the way that I've been teaching myself to remember that this one is Fehu and this one is Ansus is that Ansus, the two lines point down like they're making the letter A. And that's the only way I've found to remember it. And then in the Fehu, which is sort of the F, the two are going up. But they look kind of sort of similar. So if you're just learning them, the easiest way I've remembered is that if it's not pointed down like the letter A, it's the F. But that's, for some reason, that helped me. So this one, on my card, it says Ancestral God. And I'm just curious how that compares with what you have for Ansus.
Well, what I have is it most often relates to Odin, which would make sense, right? So it's Odin's breath. It relates to the keyword that I found most often is communication. So it's how we express ourselves in the world. But that can also relate to sacred oral tradition, which was really important prior to our whole, written language.
That makes a lot of sense.
That would be great today.
Yeah, no, but that totally makes sense. Oh, hello, camera. Hi, it's me again. There we go. It lost me for a second. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And this is one of the runes that I never remember what it stands for when I pull it or draw it. Is and I wonder if it's because it feels a little more esoteric. Like, so it's related to Odin's breath. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because
and there's communication.
Something about Odin. I'm trying to remember the story, but Odin's breath creating the world. And so the world comes from Odin's breath. So it's like that divine inspiration.
Got it. And
Mila's cards are easier to make the connection because she has the Odin link.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So Ellie Vitulo says communication between teacher and pupil, which is really interesting. And Mantis's Lair says Odin's spoken word communication. Dana says Odin is the god of knowledge, so I associate that rune that way as well. Oh, that makes sense. Alchemy's arrow. Ansus means mouth, which can mean, oh, I didn't know that. It means mouth. Cool. Which can mean communication, oral tradition, and acquiring wisdom, listening to wiser others. Okay, cool. So it's almost, okay, I can't help it, but it's almost kind of Hierophant-y.
Yeah, I can see that connection. There's also in some of it that I've read is sometimes it can be a little bit like trickery. If you think of Odin as the tricks, one of the tricks, or kind of a trickster god. I know we think of Loki in that way, but Odin also would become like the wanderer, and he would, go into the world as his alter egos, right? And so it can also lean to that side of things, I think, probably depending on the context of your reading, I would imagine, on whether or not that could actually be also like a miscommunication or a misinformation. And which I think kind of can be considered like the reversed as well. If I know some people don't, just like tarot, some people don't read reversals in runes either, I found.
Yeah, I find runes tricky, or sorry, reversals tricky. I just noticed looking at this image that Nina illustrated is we've got, there's actually a little, where is it? It's on this side. It's all backwards. But there's these little symbols of like little spirals coming out of this character's mouth. So it's definitely highlighting that whole spoken word or breath. So that's really good to help me remember when I draw this card, because picture's helpful. Yes.
Yeah. That's one of the things I like about Nina's deck is the pictures really help key into those meanings.
Yep, totally. So Francesca says, if I remember correctly, Odin was punished for revealing the written language to humans. Oh, that's interesting. And Dana says, Odin is a shapeshifter, much like Loki. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that about Odin. Oh, see, this is going to make me want to read more mythology for sure.
Odin was very closely related in some stories to Odin's actions helping humanity was relatable to Perseus.
Oh, Perseus, who collected light for
brought fire to mankind.
Oh, interesting.
The stories aren't identical,
but there's some correlation.
There's a lot of parallel.
Oh, interesting.
That's because Odin lost his eye as a punishment because he was I forget the whole story, but part of the reason why he doesn't have why he's missing an eye is because of that was part of his punishment for helping humanity.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Something about he gave up his eye to go down to the well. I think that might have been the price. It's been a little bit now since I've read that story, but there was something.
I just need to read them now. Yeah. Okay, so we are on Rido. Is that the right way to say it? Rido? Anybody feel free to correct pronunciations in the comments because
I think I heard it like radio. I don't know.
Anybody chime in? So this one says the wagon, which is I don't think I've ever seen that particular keyword anywhere else.
I think I have like writing and cart. I think Nina's is writing. And then the keyword that I have that most associates with that is basically just journey. If you break all those keywords down, but a lot of times it's actually can talk about horse, travel, movement. And then in some of them, I read that it can also symbolize like the deeper journey of life itself. So it could be an immediate journey as in like travel, or you're talking about the journey of your whole life.
And sort of that could be like a good call out for like you're moving forward in your personal growth path or need to move forward in your personal growth path as far as like a life's journey kind of thing. And this is really interesting because in this illustration, it's this one to me is one of the easiest runes to remember because I often just in my head think chariot. And I'm not sure if that's quite a fair because when I hear you talking about it now, I'm thinking, okay, well, the chariot is more about drive. And I almost feel like this is more about movement and growth, which I'm not quite sure those two things completely perfectly overlap, but at least it helps me remember Rido with the chariot and at least it gets me started. Ellie Vitulo says travel to acquire learning. And Alchemy's Arrow says Rido means what I keep calling it Rido. If that's Raido, Joanne says. Raido. Okay. So Alchemy's Arrow says it means wagon and we can talk about any kind of journey, inner or outer. So that echoes what Dawn was saying too.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. Yeah. Ellie says R for writing. That's the association I make. Whenever I see it, I'm like, it looks like an R writing. I can make that association.
I think that actually might be better because I think if I try, because it's automatic for me to try to equate it with tarot, but the problem is that because they're different systems and each one of these feels like it contains a lot more in a way, there's fewer of them. And I may limit my meanings if I overfocus on which tarot card it reminds me of, you know what I mean? It's helpful in a way, but it could also be limiting. So I feel like, if I try to like associate R with writing, that might be easier for me to remember. And there is a little note here. I haven't been mentioning this on previous cards, but this one has a little Sagittarius symbol on it, which is interesting. Butterfly Love Child says Freya and her chariot pulled by, I clicked the wrong one. Oh, the chat's moving fast. There we go. Freya and her chariot pulled by cats. Love it. Oh yeah, it is cats. Oh, it's Freya. Oh, that's good to know. And again, I don't have the guidebook yet. Still waiting for it. It'll come eventually. And the Alchemy's Arrow says it can mean movement and growth in the material or the spiritual. Surrounding runes will confirm which way to interpret. And let's see. I think that's got us caught up. Okay, so next up we have Kenaz?
Something like that. Sounds good to me.
These live streams are like going to really test my pronunciation issues. So this one is, I believe, the torch. And that's the most common keyword I've seen for it.
Yeah, me too. Kind of relating to light. So you can think of that both in terms of physical light or, illumination. Which I love in Nina. She's at the little dwarf with the light there. It's really cute.
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. It's like the keywords I have are like illumination, learning, knowledge, heat, fire. But of course, like fire, it can have a destructive side and a creative side.
Cool. Yeah, I love this. Got this like little gnome like illuminating a cave, a dark cave.
Like I think he's one of the little dwarfs. So in the mythology stories, each of the little dwarfs, like they bring the, trying to remember, they make the things and they bring the gifts to the gods. Like all of the little, like the folding up ship and the bracelets and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Ginger Face says, I have opening and beginnings. And Ellie has aids in recovery. Oh, that's interesting. So like healing maybe?
Let's see. Yeah, I think you could relate it to that. I have what I have is it's a symbol of light and illumination. On a personal level, it can signify, friendship and love as well. And on a spiritual level, represent the brightness of spirit within.
Got it. Okay. And alchemy's arrow, yes, the element of fire or torch can be illuminating or destructive. State of mind is key to how this energy moves through one's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would assume like a tarot reading, it would probably, when you get into casting, depend on the, what's going on around it, your other runes around it.
Totally. That's what's going to be, I think, the challenging piece is figuring out how to connect them.
Yeah, how to navigate all that.
Exactly.
We'll have a few weeks for that, so it's okay.
Yep. Dana says the dwarves also made Freya's necklace she wears. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I think we've got 2 more in the et.
I think so, yeah.
So we've got Gebo? Gebo?
Gibo? I think I saw a Gibo, but
Gebo? I have no idea. So what does this one say? The gift.
The gift. That's what I have. I also saw it as exchange. So with keywords of like giving and receiving, exchange. I also saw it related back a lot to offering and sacrifice.
Oh.
Which was really interesting. Talking about the the connectivity between the sacrifice of creation, but also the giving and receiving in creation as well.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And here she's holding she's holding a basket of apples and she's extending the character in this card. I wish my camera would focus properly. Is extending an apple outward, like offering it, basically.
Yeah. I can't remember her if I could remember that goddess's name. So she has these apples of if I believe, I haven't read Nina's complete guidebook yet because I'm working through it one at a time. But if I remember from the stories correctly, there was a goddess who has the golden apples, who is actually what sustains the gods in their immortality. So she's offering the gift of life.
That's really, so it's the gift of life. Is that what you said?
Yes, the gift. Yeah, it's immortality. So the gift of life. But if you think of that on a, yes, I believe that's her name. I'd have to look it up. But
no, I believe that goddess is Indun, Dana said.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Yeah, a few people have said that. Indun and her golden apples.
Yes, thank you. When you start reading all the mythology, all the names start kind of like mismashing in your head. But yeah, so she's what keeps all the gods immortal.
Oh, okay. I really need to read the freaking mythology. This is getting me so excited. I know what I'm going to be doing for the next week and a bit. Okay, so we've got one left. Wunjo? Is that right? Wunjo?
Wunjo or Wanjo? I think it's Wunjo. So I think I have joy. I think that's what yours says too.
Yeah, mine says joy.
Yeah. And I also saw that one often related to what they call the wishing rune. So a lot of times in magic, I guess it's that rune would be used in conjunction with other runes to help you manifest things, which I thought was really interesting.
So this would be like what you'd use maybe in your magical work to pull in.
Yeah, I think so, to help you kind of like the wishing rune, to help you manifest what you want. I have it as like also can indicate growth and prosperity in your undertakings and as an omen of blessings. So if you connect that back to the wishing rune, right, that makes sense. And that you can kind of see that represented in our card, like the whole feast together. And those gods were all about feasting, like all the time. The things they went through to hold their feasts is quite interesting.
Oh boy, I definitely sense some things there. Regina says Wunyo? Is that one of the pronunciations?
That sounds right. Wunyo.
Wunyo.
I think J is pronounced as we would say a Y.
Oh, that would make sense. Wunyo. Yeah, because I know that's true in Yera, which is the harvest rune. That one is also a J. So that would make sense. So that would make sense that this is a Y sound.
Yeah, I think we would pronounce it as a J, but I think it's pronounced as a Y sound.
That's really cool. Okay, so and Alchemy's Arrow says Wunyo, joy and happiness, success or positive outcome in whatever the topic. Mantis Layer, Wunyo, joy, bliss, and known as the wishing rune. Yeah, perfect. Oh, and Ellie says looks like a P for present.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, here's another one. Oh, okay. There's also a Dutch goddess apparently called Nehelenia, who's a Dutch goddess holding a basket of apples. So that's interesting. I think it's interesting in different mythologies how you can see like similar stories. Like Peggy was mentioning about Perseus. You have these other like similar stories that appear in different. What am I trying to say? Mythology.
Well, I think it's pictured holding an apple because there's a story about her and the ambrosia apple.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard that, but she was saying there's something about Aphrodite and the ambrosia apples too.
Yep.
So there's like maybe a correlation there. So do you know what the elemental associations are for these cards offhand, Dawn?
I don't, but I have Nina's book. I can see if she says real quick.
Because it looks like this is, if red is fire, this is fire heavy. Because there's 4 fire in this.
That would make sense. Fire, you know, the new, I'm trying to.
I think it might be red fire, purple air, blue water.
Blue water, definitely red air. Purple could also be spirit. Red, how many colors does she have?
I think she's only got the 4 colors.
Okay.
So then it must
That would make sense. So red, purple would be, and then green.
Must be earth.
Earth. But don't quote me on that because it doesn't actually say. What's the elementals or the astrology associations, I mean. Which, I mean, if you look at those, like, you know, so for Feu, it's Aries.
Yeah, there's the Aries symbol.
Although astrology is Taurus.
For Urus, it's Taurus.
Which is an earth symbol, so maybe maybe I'm just making that up. Could be making it
up. We have Mars for Thurisaz.
Yeah, which
that makes sense.
That. Yeah. And then
I think that's Neptune. Is it Neptune for Onsus?
She says Pluto.
Oh, Pluto. Yeah, I always get Neptune. Oh, yeah, Neptune is the forky one. That's right. Sagittarius for Raido. And Venus for Kenez.
Yeah.
Pisces for Gebo. I think that's Pisces.
Yeah. But then that's not a Pisces is not a that's a water sign, right?
Yeah, so I think she might be going more by the energy of the rune than the astrological. Yeah, it must be. Because Leo for Wunjo, and Leo's definitely fire, not earth. So yeah, it must be. But it kind of makes sense if you think of Wunjo as far as like the feasting, it makes sense that would be an earthly card, right?
Yeah. I'm sure you could, or there probably is elemental associations to them. I haven't found any one. Here's what they all relate to, but.
And somebody else has said something interesting about, I think it was Wunyo. I keep saying, oh man, that's hard. Wunyo. Something about putting it at the end of a spell. I was looking for where it went. But there was a comment here about putting it at the end of a spell to guarantee success. Oh, here it is. Ashara Jane Dragonblood. I once learned you place Wunyo always at the end of a rune spell, so it will always be successful. That's really cool. So kind of like the exclamation point on the sentence in a way, like just to finish it in a positive way. Super interesting. So those are the 8 runes we're going to be studying. I feel like it's a lot, actually. It didn't seem like much. We were talking about it originally, and then just going through them just now, it's like there's a lot about each one.
There is.
So I think our first post in the Facebook group to open up discussion about each rune goes up. Is it today or tomorrow?
I think it's Monday.
So we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, just to give people a chance if they want to watch this back or get, grab the little guide or all of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Nicodemus says, "Oh, it was Prometheus in Greek mythology who gave humans fire, not Perseus." Was Perseus the one though? Oh no, yeah, so Prometheus the one got tied to the rock or whatever.
I knew who I was talking about. I just got the name.
Got the name wrong. Fair enough. Oh, and Haley says, "Wunyo, victory flag, joy, happy." Oh yeah, it does look like a victory flag. So that's another cool memory tool, victory flag. It looks exactly like a victory flag. Oh, cool. Those are going to be helpful, I feel like, to remember the meanings, is to think about how the shape of the rune itself depicts. So anybody got anything for the cow in Fehu? Because that totally doesn't look like a cow to me. I'm curious if anybody has any cool associations for that one. Most of the others, I feel like, kind of look like something that I can associate. The only other one,
F is in finance, I guess.
Oh yeah, F like because it's wealth. F like finance. I like it.
Cash cow.
Oh yeah, we had Cash Cow. That's
Cow.
right. And there was one other. Oh yeah, Gebo. That's an X. So an X for the gift. Any?
X marks the spot.
Oh, okay. X marks the spot.
That's where the treasure is, right?
Right. Oh, like on a treasure map.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Did you just come up with that on the fly?
Yep.
Impressive. I love it when people's brains move quick like that because mine does not.
Sometimes it happens. Not always, sometimes.
Nice. Yeah, Divination says financial freedom for the F1 for the cow one. Yep, that's a good one. Oh, and Bastet says for this one it could be you could be thinking of the horns going upward. Although I think that one's you might be thinking of the bull. This one does kind of look like a bull. The shape of Uruz kind of looks bull. You know, I can kind of see that broad kind of forward moving shape.
Plus, if you turn it upside down, it makes like horns.
True. Oh, somebody said there's a whole YouTube video. I lost it. Here we go. There's a whole YouTube video on that. I said looks like a tree. A cow can lie under it. Oh, for this one. Oh, and that might be why Nina's depicted it that way, as if it's like lying under the tree. Oh, that's really cool. Oh my gosh, you guys. So let's see. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. How are you feeling, Dawn?
I think we got everything covered. We'll have, like we said, we'll start Monday really with the diving into it, but all that stuff is going to stay up in the Facebook group. So like if you can't get to it Monday, it's okay. Like
it'll be in a unit.
Yeah, it'll be a unit. We can keep working through them. Just because we technically move on doesn't mean we can't keep discussions going on past runes, because I know I've gotten some messages for people who are like, I'm going to be out of town, I'm going to do this, that, or the other. So it will still be there. So you can just kind of jump in whenever you're ready and move along, you know, with us, and then, but always go back.
Yeah, it's definitely not something where you feel like you have to do it like live with us. You can totally tune in whenever.
Mm-hmm.
Our next live chat is going to be Saturday, July 25th at 11 a.m. And then we're going to be introducing the next group of runes, kind of checking in. And that one will have a slightly different format because we're going to spend the first chunk of that checking in with you guys, seeing how it's going, maybe talking about some of the things we've picked up or learned, or, you know, probably going through all the 8 runes, but from the perspective of having like learned a little bit about them. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do the same kind of thing and we'll introduce the next 8 runes. So that'll be really good. I think this video will be fun to rewatch because there was a ton of really great comments happening.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and reading the comments because I know there's so much information that was in there.
I know, so that'll be good. The live chat, if you've never rewatched a live stream, just be aware that it can take a couple of hours after the live stream is over for the live chat to actually be viewable. So it might say live chat is disabled. We're not disabling it. It's just processing it in the background. So if you try to rewatch right away, don't be discouraged. If you can't see the chat, just come back a little later and it will all be there. If you're watching this after the fact, leave us your resources, comments, thoughts on the runes, all that in the comments below, because that'll be there and easy to find for people who come into this video later. So great way to resource share. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to be doing this.
It's going to be fun.
I know, I'm excited. I'm like, okay, now I need to go get like a couple more books, just like a couple. I don't want to go crazy, but just like 1 or 2. So I'm going to maybe go scoop up some of the ones that you guys recommended. Mm-hmm. And I think we're good.
We'll be in the Facebook group, but
make sure that you subscribe to Dawn Michelle if you are not already over at Boho Tarot on YouTube. Her link is in the description box down below. The link to the Facebook group is in the description box down below. Remember to like this video before you go. All the good things. And both of our links and all our information is below, so you can reach out if you have questions or touch base. If you're having trouble getting into the Facebook group, sometimes it's because there's a couple of questions just to make sure people are actually coming in from like reliable sources. Mm-hmm. So feel free to answer those questions, or if you can't get back to them, just send one of us a message and we'll take a look and make sure you get scooted into the group. I think that's all the businessy stuff. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you guys. We are going to head out. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.